Coming far side for Florida. No score, 43-40 to go first half.
Line drive service. The header right away. The Gators score. Lauren Donovan went up high, and the Gators take a 1-goal lead. 90 seconds into the match. Extra touch of blast. Oh! An absolute missile. And the Gators lead 2-0. It's Donovan with a brace and the night of her life.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. This is our specially revamped feature series, Orange and Blue Profile. In this series, we'll be talking with influential people in the soccer culture of the Queen City and beyond. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Lauren Donovan. Lauren grew up in Loveland, Ohio. She came up in the Cincinnati United Premier Soccer Club, Cincinnati Development Academy, and the Ohio Premier Soccer Club. Lauren played for Loveland High School, where she won districts in 2019 and was honored as a first-team All-Ohio player, Cincinnati Enquirer Co-Player of the Year in 2020. Lauren started her collegiate career at the University of Minnesota before transferring to the University of Florida. Lauren recently signed with FC Slovacko of the Czech Women's First League. Lauren, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. We were super excited to see that you got your professional signing, and I a little background for some of the audience. I actually got the pleasure of covering for a very brief moment. We had some moving pieces at CST, but for a very brief moment, I got to cover Lauren Donovan at the University of Florida this year. So that was really awesome. I was like, wait, is Lauren Donovan? I didn't know that you had transferred. So I was like,
Yes. Yeah.
I'd seen you at the Sirens, and I had seen you with King's Hammer, but I didn't know that you had. I was so perplexed. I was like, this is awesome.
That's funny.
So Lauren, so you grew up in Loveland, Ohio. Tell us about like Loveland for viewers that may not be familiar with that area. What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, it's a really special place to me. Some of my best friends are there. My parents are still there. And downtown Loveland, if you've never been, shout out downtown Loveland. I think you should go. Lots of restaurants. If you don't know about the long, there's a place to walk pathway that's like miles long. It's called the Loveland Bike Trail. Definitely recommend, but it's just, yeah, that's home to me. And all my family members are in Cincinnati. So yeah, it's home for sure.
Yeah. Loveland is, I'm a transplant myself.
Yeah.
So when I first went up to Loveland, I think there was like a coffee shop nearby the trail.
42.
Yeah. And I went up there. I was like, man, it must be amazing to live up here, because it's got that small town kind of vibe to it, but it's right there in the urban district, right? Like you got people, there's plenty of different people. It's a diverse group of people with some awesome restaurants and some amazing different shops and stuff like that. So Loveland's a must.
Yeah.
So Lauren, tell me how did you get started playing soccer? Tell me a little bit about the Cincinnati United Premier Soccer Club.
Mm-hmm. So I started playing soccer at a very young age. I was introduced to Cincinnati United Premier when I want to say 9 or 10. And Coach Bobby Papioni, he is a coach that will forever be in my heart. He took me under his wing, and I jumped in with a bunch of girls that were really good. I came from a small little club that my dad coached me at for a while, and so I was ready to kind of go to the select soccer stage and travel the country and, go to something bigger. And I got thrown in with some of the best girls in Cincinnati. And that was around like 9 or 10, like I said. And then, ever since then, through probably when I was 15, I was with Cup until it turned into the Development Academy. And then things changed to where we were with Kingshammer or whatever. But I still talk to all of those girls to this day. Some of them are at Ohio State. Some went to, Ohio University. Some went to Indiana. So we're just like all over the country, and it's so cool to be like, wow, I played with those girls since I was like 8 years old. So it's cool.
That must be wild because like we probably even if none of us played like a higher level of competition, we all remember like getting together in our neighborhood and playing with each other and stuff to think that so and so went there or this. That's a really cool experience.
Some of them I had to play against in college soccer, which was weird because I played 10 plus years with them in club soccer. So one of my best friends at Auburn, she's the goalkeeper. And then one of my best friends at Ohio State. So when I was in the Big Ten and then when I was in the SEC. So it was, it's crazy. Yeah.
So do you give like scouting reports to the team? Like, this person goes right every single time.
So I had to do that one time. We were playing against Kentucky, and there was a girl that I played club soccer with, and I was like, she's left-footed. Like, so I had a little bit of insight.
A few years of experience with that one. That's awesome. So you kind of mentioned Kingshammer. So like, what was it like playing with Kingshammer and through their system?
Do you mean the summer team or like when I was growing up?
The summer team. Yeah.
That was just so fun. I love summer soccer. It's where again all the girls that you play against in college, we all come together and we are just so good. But I would say that kind of is where like a sense of freedom comes within my soccer like technical skills of like Jacob, the head coach. He just kind of like allows me to play make, win balls out of the air, score headers, which is kind of that clip of the Texas game. It's just like it's just so fun. They make it fun, and we just play against some of the top girls. Like they go to UNC or they also go to an SEC school. So it's just so fun. And they do such a good job to recruit players or get players on the team. And
they do a great job. And if anyone listening to this hasn't gone out to see Kingshammer, you have to go out there and check them out. It's the same place that they play. It's at NKU, so you get a chance to be at the same place that FC Cincinnati 2 plays, so it's a familiar place. But to be able to see all this talent on the field together during the summer, so it's a lot more of a relaxed, but everyone's still competing. It's so fun to go to those games. So a question that I often wonder, so like when you were kind of going through the academies in high school, did you have an experience where maybe they kind of crossed over at any point? Were you playing club and playing high school at the same time?
So when I did play high school soccer, which was my junior and senior year, I was able to be coached by my dad again. He was the high school coach at Loveland. And it always happened where high school soccer was in the fall, and then like select or club soccer happened like winter, spring. And that kind of worked because with the Development Academy, that is no longer a thing now. It's like the GA. That happens all year round. So that's why it was like the DA could happen in the fall. But with like ECNL, all the different types of clubs and whatnot. It happened in the winter and the spring. So it never like crossed over, but as soon as high school soccer was done, you were straight into club soccer. So
no breaks. Yeah. No getting into the Christmas spirit and
That's right.
it's like that's what all of us that are sitting on this side of the camera we did. We played video games during the off season, stuff like that.
That's right.
now we're professional yappers. So what was your favorite memory of that time? Did you have a favorite memory with Loveland?
Obviously I mentioned my dad being one of my coaches, which was an amazing experience. People always ask me, oh my gosh, how was that? Like, did he yell at you? Did he, it only happened one time where he did threaten to send me home. And I was like, no. But I would say like, I think it was 2019, the date that you mentioned prior. We beat Beaver Creek, who is also an Ohio team, but they were undefeated since the last season, and we beat them to go to districts, I think it was, or be district champions, I think. And there's a picture of me and my dad hugging after the game.
Oh, wow.
And I scored 2 goals in that game. So it was just a surreal moment for me and my dad. And that picture is framed all over my house. So it's just such a special memory that I'll forever cherish and remember. So
it doesn't get much better than that. It doesn't get much better than that, winning something significant with a family member like that. Like, because I'm sure there was the practices, but I'm sure there was the extra practices when you got home, or the extra film study.
Trust me, yes.
And was there ever a game where you were like, you questioned the coaching decisions of your dad? Or were you guys pretty much on the same step there?
No, I think we were honestly on the same step majority of the time.
Okay.
If not, that we would like talk about it and we'd be like on the same page, but there was never a time where I was like, what in the world are you doing? So not that I can remember. Of course, there's probably moments of me like, whatever, dad,
Oh yeah.
But no, I don't think so. Yeah.
As a teenager, I questioned like everything. And me and my dad would play church league basketball together. This guy's got a jump shot, and we were just philosophy wise, we couldn't be. We were oil and water. I mean, it was ridiculous. So there was definitely some uncomfortable drives from church back to the house.
Yeah, right.
So
funny.
You committed to Minnesota pretty early in your recruitment. What kind of walk us through how that worked out? How was it that you came up on Minnesota? How did they find you at such a young age?
Yeah, so all the recruiting happened during like showcases in club soccer. And I remember specifically like seeing maroon and gold on the sidelines and being like, that's kind of cool. Like, and I when the process happens, it's kind of chaotic. There's coaches who have to email or text your club coach to text you. They can't text you directly. So there's all kinds of rules. And I remember Minnesota was actually my very first college phone call. I was super nervous, all the jitters, but I remember like just loving the coach. And I was like, well, the Big Ten, like that's a huge school, I want to go to a big school, big city, all the things. And as like time went on, I just kept in touch with them. Like they kept coming to my games and I would see them and I would always like tell them thank you after the games and all the things. And I would go to like recruiting visits and compare everything to Minnesota. And so I was like, I think it's Minnesota. I think that's where I want to go. And obviously I committed my freshman year of high school. So it was very early, but also Minnesota just felt like obviously my club team was very, very good. And so a bunch of college coaches wanted, 4 or 5 of us or
Yeah,
3 or 4 of us. And it was like kind of Minnesota only wanted me. And so that's kind of what made that a little bit special.
sure.
Not only did I love the coach, I loved what their culture. I loved the school. It is very cold. Let me just tell you, it's very
I
cold.
can't imagine.
It's very cold, but so that's kind of like how I committed so early, because I knew, like, I was like, I keep comparing everything to Minnesota. Nothing's Minnesota, blah, blah, blah. And so my dad was the one to be like, hold on, because I probably would have committed my 8th grade year if I could.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so crazy because like most people well, a lot of people are thinking like, I'm going to go to school, but I don't have a clue where I'm going. And then
Right.
at that age, at what would that be, like 13 years old, trying to
Yeah.
consider what school you're committing to? That's got to be a big
Yeah.
deal.
And some
But
kids like want to play college soccer, and then they're like, wait, after their freshman year, they're like, I'm good. I'm just going to play high school soccer and then be done. But I was like, nope, I guess I'm playing.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of a good thing that you did commit so early, because once it got to your junior, senior year, then the world kind of changed a little bit, right? That you had the COVID-19 pandemic. And
Yeah.
so did you know any of your like fellow classmates or anything like that had those struggles?
Yeah.
during that time?
Yeah. I had one of my best friends. She's actually also a Loveland resident. She suffered through an injury as well. So then she had an injury going into COVID. And then everything like shut down, college processes and colleges reaching out. They're trying to figure out their seasons, whether it's going to be in the fall or the spring. And a lot of it not only pressed pause, but some of it ended. Like they were like, actually, we're not interested, or and so it was like really difficult. Some girls planning on going to a big school, not going to a big school. So unfortunately, like, yeah, there was like a lot of people that like suffered, big opportunities. I mean, my best friend ended up being fine at Ohio University and whatnot, but
Perfect.
yeah, it was tough. I couldn't even imagine. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's just got to be scary, because
yeah.
the NCAA came out, for those that aren't familiar, and gave scholarship athletes, an extra year of eligibility. So that became a problem, because now there's not enough positions. Like, people think of the major sports like, collegiate football or something like that. They think, well, players are going to still go pro and stuff like that. But when there's not as many opportunities at the professional level in some sports like volleyball, or
Yeah.
it becomes a nightmare to try to figure out who's going to stay on, what scholarships we need to fill, what scholarships are still available. Some of that recruiting process just completely got sidelined. So
Yeah.
that's very good for your friend, and I'm glad that worked out. And I'm glad you were already committed to the Golden Gophers. Speaking of the Golden Gophers, was there anything that from that experience that you draw back on and say, hey, I really grew as a soccer player over at Minnesota?
Absolutely. First off, my friend called me prior to this podcast. She's actually who I met in Minnesota. Like, they are some of my best friends. I still keep in touch with them today. The families, my parents almost went to every college game of my sophomore year. They missed 2 my freshman year. So my family grew, more family members in Minnesota. And yeah, it's obviously, I obviously transferred from there, but there are just so many memories that I have with those girls that I will forever hold in my heart. And so many lessons too, like a sense of independence. Like I had to move away from home. I had to get out of Loveland and, figure things out and on my own. And obviously I'm in a very different world now, which I think definitely prompted from, Minnesota in my time there. So
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
so what ultimately led into the decision to transfer to the University of Florida?
Yeah, there was my sophomore year was a little rough for me. And I kind of always stated that I was kind of just going to do things for me. I was going to, really pray about it and be like, okay, is this really what I should do? Is there anything that, am I being silly? Am I being dumb? Like, there was so my sophomore year was rough, and my friends even knew it. They could see it. They were like Lauren, you're not really yourself. Like, and so I was not only struggling mentally, but also just like kind of missing home and like really needing some sort of change. Not only like community wise, but also soccer wise. I just needed something different. I wanted a certain role that Minnesota just didn't want me at. And
Gotcha.
so I decided to go into the transfer portal, and it was literally the biggest blessing I could have done. Like, it was like literally the best thing ever. My parents went to Florida for their master's degrees. So me going to Florida was like they're like, baby is going to the
Now
University of
it's the
Florida. Like,
connection.
that was so cool. So but yeah, it was such a great process. And I know that's like that I'm blessed for that, because not every process is the same. So
Oh,
yeah, it was great.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
like, do you have like any like special memories of like that connection, that group? Because Gainesville can be a very fun place to be.
Yes. Yes.
So what was there? I'm sure there was some times at that amazing pool at the what do they call that? The athletic facility.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to go over
Mhm.
there? And
Yeah. So
their facilities are crazy in
yeah.
Gainesville.
So Hebner facility is where all athletes eat. But it's so going like transferring from Minnesota to Florida, or transferring from Minnesota, like, Minnesota had great facilities too. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, like I'm leaving great facilities. Like, what am I doing? Like, and then I walk into Florida and I'm like, holy cow. Like the way Florida, like the University of Florida's community invests in their sports, not only their football, because, Florida
Sure.
people love football, but
Oh, yeah.
also their women's sports, like the locker room,
Yeah.
like there's professional teams that come into our women's soccer locker room and they're like, this is how we want our locker room to be. It was just, and it was so crazy. Like, so not only the facilities, but I mean, yeah, they feed every single athlete breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's like arcades and a swimming pool for all the athletes. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Yeah.
It really is like Olympic Village down in
Yes.
Florida. It's like you look around campus and you're like, are any of these people not exceptional athletes? Because it's like every single they do a really good job.
Yeah.
Scott Strickland does a really good job
Yeah.
at managing that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to like in the weeds, the coaches, the players.
Yes. Yeah.
They deserve every bit of it,
Yeah.
and especially you, Lauren. I know you were a big part of the team down there in Florida, and so you were a major part of that game against Texas, and I'm sure you've been reminded ad nauseum about, like, was there a moment where you were like, okay, the goal scoring is going to come through at some point, but because it's not like it was. You were always involved in the attack, but you were also like much more of just a tough nosed midfielder that would come at people. And I always loved watching you play for that very reason. But then the Texas game comes on and you just went off against Texas.
Yeah.
Tell me about that day.
So it was our first SEC game at home. And that's always some sort of emotion, like my senior year. So we felt good. Like, the energy in the locker room was like just different. And prior to like some of those games, like I was like trying to find my groove. Like, I was trying to like figure everything out. And I remember that I was like, I need to score a header. I'm a target on the corners. They're trying to aim for my head. I was like, put the ball in the back of the net, like with your head. And so when Vera crossed that corner, I was like, oh yeah, this is it right here. And then I didn't want me scoring that first header for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm good. Like, all right, relax. Like, it was like, no, like you have a freaking game to play and Texas is good and they're probably going to score another. So you need to score another too. And I had like a sense of freedom from my coaches to be like, okay, like you can get into the attack more.
Yes.
And I think that was helpful from them because for so long as a 6, you have one job and it's to win balls and to tackle people and to keep the ball. And I just had like a different role that game where I was more in the attack. And that second goal was it replays in my head. It's like slow motion. Like it's slow motion. I was like, wow, like, and yeah, it was just a crazy game. My mom's crying in the stands. My dad was always the flag guy in the stands. He had a big Gator flag. So it was so fun. It was so fun.
One of my favorite parts of I think it was the header goal. It's just seeing like Nujiri's face, Delaney's face, like everyone was just like, oh my God, like it was just so excited.
Everyone's
for
like
you.
pushing me, like,
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
go. Like, let's go. Yeah.
Gotta get refocused.
I know, right? And it brought a different energy too, because obviously Texas won the SEC tournament, but Texas was new to the SEC. And so we like kind of wanted to like make a name and be welcome, So yeah.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows over here in the SEC. And that I mean, the SEC is just an incredible league in various sports, but particularly in soccer this past season. I know Kentucky had a really competitive team all year long, and it's a tough road. It's a tough sledding, and I think the Florida Gators will be able to establish more of that, that pedigree. Did you at any point have a chance, like did any of the alumni from Florida come in and speak with you guys or talk to you guys?
Becky Burley comes in. We Zoom call with Abby Wambach all the time. Another fellow Cincinnatian, Heather Mitz, she'll come for alumni weekend. We do an alumni weekend, so whoever can come will come, and they always show up, which is so cool. We were able to they won the national championship in 1998, and so we were able to reveal their national championship banner on the field. And
that's so cool.
Abby never made it to like one of the weekends, but she does love to Zoom call with us and share her wisdom. And so it's been cool because I not only get to obviously meet elite pro athletes like Mitz and Abby Wambach themselves, but it's incredible.
It's pretty incredible talking to the best American soccer player in history on a Zoom call. Just like, hey, how's it going, Abby? So people go on about like the Ronaldo and Messi thing. I'm like, you should have watched Abby play. Abby was an absolute beast. Could not be stopped. So you graduated from the University of Florida. Was there a part of you that was like, okay, is this it for my soccer career? Or like where did that dividing line was like going into maybe looking for a career, like a 9-to-5 white collar job, or going in to pursue professional soccer? Where was that divine line for you?
So I would say I was waiting until the end of season to even make a decision. Not only because I wanted to, truly focus on my senior year, but to see like if I wanted to do this. People know soccer, you do a lot of running, you do a lot of workouts. So it's a grind. and it's definitely not easy, especially at the next level. And so I was waiting until season was over to even see where my head was at. If I still wanted to go to the field and get touches in on my own, if I still wanted to work out with our strength trainer, things like that, and it was still in me. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this thing. And I mean, it's definitely not an easy business. And it's just so much different than, college sports and like the college soccer like process. So I would say it took a while to be like, oh wait, I do want to do this thing, but I don't want to do this thing. But like, it was like, I had I had a breakthrough moment too, when I was like, I do not want to go overseas. Like I'm not going to do it. And then I was like, but then I might not have an opportunity. So then I was like kind of opening up doors and then trying to close them. And then I was like, you know what? You have to have an open mind in this business. You cannot make any decisions yourself right now. So yeah.
It's gotta be wild, because like you have to sign up with an agent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then once you get the agent, then like, do you kind of like sit down and plot out like the different places that you're looking to go, or does they just bring in a whole bunch of ideas and you say, okay, I think I'd try this one, this one, this one?
So kind of like the blessing of an agent is you're able to tell them what you want, and then they go do it. So I told him I wanted to play professional soccer. That was like what I gave him. I was like, preferably in the US. And an opportunity came from another country and then from Slovacko. And Slovacko was on it. The coaches got on a quick Zoom call with me. They were talking to me, and I got off and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real. Like this is real. They were asking me for my, for my passport and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could move across the world. Like I can move across the world. And so I told my agent I didn't want to go overseas. Well, kinda. I was like, I want to play in the US. Yeah. But I wanted to play. I wanted to get an opportunity to play. And so talking with him, we were like, let's do this thing and get experience as a professional athlete, and let's see where it goes. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been able to, you went over to Slovacko, you signed your contract with Slovacko. So how's the training been like? Like I would imagine a lot of them speak Czech. Is that right? It's Czech, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Czech.
So
yeah.
it couldn't be further, one of the more further languages from English. So like what has that dynamic been like?
Yeah. So at first it was hard. Like obviously moving away from your family for college is one thing, but moving into a 6-hour time difference across the world is completely different, into a culture that I'm certainly not used to. So, I mean, practices, everything's in Czech. I have a teammate who translates for me. My coaches are amazing, but they coach in Czech. So I, some drills I'm spinning around in circles, like, what am I doing? And it's a lot of like evaluation and self-coaching in a way, until I'm like able to ask questions and like sit down with them. We like kind of established that I have to go through the practice plan prior to like walking out to the field, because I need to know what I'm doing during practice.
Each
These
step,
are on check, I mean, definitely the locker room's hard, because I love to be involved. I love to like know what everyone's laughing at, but I can't understand.
Exactly.
And so my roommate actually played college soccer in Georgia, and she's from the Czech Republic. So that's been so amazing that she's been able to like, hey, like, the message that was sent in the group chat, like, you need to turn this in at 10 a.m. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Perfect.
So yeah, it's been such an adjustment, but it's been such a cool opportunity. I love being able to be abroad and seek another culture, another country. I've never been to Europe, and now I live in Europe. So
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Can you imagine a few years ago telling that to your younger self?
No way. No way.
But one of the beautiful things about playing sports and playing athletics with each other, obviously in training and stuff like that, communication, but
Mhm.
once the lights come on and the ball is
Mhm.
kicked off, it's a language of itself.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about this game. I know a lot of people in Cincinnati have talked about FC Cincinnati players that have come over abroad, and maybe
Yeah.
English and Spanish is not their first language, and how big of a transition that is. So it's pretty wild to be on the other side of that and saying, what how about culturally? Has there been anything that they like as far as like cuisine or anything like that
So
that you have to be caught up with?
their favorite thing is duck.
Duck?
I have not tried duck, but that's like kind of like their main meat. You can walk into a store and there's like a cow leg on the ceiling and that they just shave off of. It's so different. And then I'm a coffee lover and they have some of the best coffee. They
Best
like coffee
coffee.
shops like all around too. Like you don't pass through like a strip mall or like a strip of stores without seeing 3 coffee shops. It's insane. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
So for FC Slovacko, I'm sure you've already talked to your parents about this. Is there any way that folks that are interested in you, Lauren, as an athlete, is there ways that they can follow along, or is there kind of a
Yes.
gap?
Yes. So I know friendlies right now are not being like streamed.
Sure.
But once we start league play, you are able to what I'm not exactly sure how yet. Still learning the ropes over here. But obviously following like Instagram and the league. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But the league, the league obviously shows a lot. We're in like a Czech league, one of the top Czech leagues, and we're 3rd in the standings, and we have some really important games to take care of against our rivals. So that's coming up soon, which I'm so excited about.
That's got to be wild, because like when you transferred, when you signed to Minnesota, you were probably aware of some like playing against Michigan's a rivalry, playing against Wisconsin's a rivalry. We transferred to Florida, you knew that playing against Georgia or playing against Kentucky or Tennessee were going to be rivalry games. But now you're like completely oblivious.
Yeah, like it's so weird.
Yeah. So that's really awesome, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you so much for your time today, Lauren. I really appreciate that. Tell people where they can find you and follow along with your story.
Certainly on my Instagram, Lauren Don 15. I also am a little active on Twitter, which is Lauren Don 6. And you can follow me on TikTok as well, Lauren Don 15. I love to post on there too. So lots of soccer content.
Oh yeah, can't get enough of it. Thank you so much, Lauren. I hope I wish you the best of luck at FC Slovakko, and I will be one of those people that will be finding the backroom channels and try to figure out how I can watch it. And you said it was against Prague?
Yeah, Sparta and Slavia is another. Sparta, Prague, Sparta, yes, and then Slavia. Yeah.
Sparta Prague is going to get it this year.
That's right.
I want to see this is a clean game.
Yeah.
But there will be some bumps and bruises, I'm sure, with Lauren Donovan on the field.
That's right.
You have a wonderful time, Lauren. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks again for having me.